Kiteretsu Daikyakka is a bit of an odd duck. There's some genuinely clever bits in this game, some distinctive graphic design, and one truly awful idea combined with some really bad level design. It could have been good, but they made some really bad choices. The title loosely translates to Encyclopedia Kiteretsu, although he doesn't go around solving petty crimes. Instead, it's based on a comic by the person who created Doraemon, and you can feel a lot of the same DNA in it. Kiteretsu is a child genius who keeps coming up with wacky inventions that go horribly wrong. In the game, he and all of his friends have become trapped in a dream world, and so Kiteretsu has to invent something to go after them. Superficially, it looks like just another action platformer. A jumps, B will make you run, and you can also crouch and crawl. You'll find some objects that stand out as you run around, and to interact with most of those, you get on top of them and crouch. Star blocks can be bopped from underneath to find coins, and those are used when you find yellow notebooks. Crouch on the yellow notebook and you get your chance to invent something. It costs a few coins to get started, and then your coins tick down as you invent. And all you have to do is mash the A button to build up the meter before the coins run out. The inventions are all single-use items, and for the most part, you use them immediately. Like this beam that you use to shrink your friend who's grown to giant size. You hit the B button to use the inventions. You can stop enemies by jumping on their heads, but this requires a weird amount of precision. Generally speaking, it's better to avoid enemies rather than try to land on them. The strangest ability that you have is to reverse gravity. To use it, you have to press up when you hit a ceiling. You can't just activate the power anywhere. And to undo it, you press down, and you can do that anywhere, even mid-jump. You have to be careful when you reverse gravity though, because you can fall off the top of the screen and it acts like a pit. As you progress through the game, you collect your friends, and they follow along behind you, doing all your platforming on a slight delay. There's only one shared health pool, so if any of your friends get hit, you take damage. By the end of the game, you'll have 4 followers along with you. There's one technique that's absolutely vital to deal with your followers. Hitting select instantly teleports them all to you. If they were falling into a pit, then hit select and teleport them. Falling into a pit takes away 4 hearts, and sends you back to the start of the stage. If you run out of health, you wind up in hell. And here's where things get complicated. You only have 1 life in Kiteretsu Daikyakka, and there aren't any continues in the normal sense. So when you die, whether it's because you've run out of your own health, or because your followers are idiots, you wind up in hell and have to borrow some additional health from the King of the Underworld. But the health that you get like this is a loan. When you defeat a boss and clear the stage, you have to pay that loan back. Health pickups are relatively uncommon as well. They're the hearts that you'll find lying around. So once you're in debt, you're probably not going to make it. And the thing is, the stages are long. I never reached the first boss, for reasons I'll get to in a few minutes. I was 8 mini-levels into the game, which even once you know what you're doing, takes about 10 to 15 minutes to get through. And I couldn't quite make the last jump, because it's buggy. The game slows down to a halt when you try to make the last jump before the boss, and it affects your jump distance. The tasks that you have to do in Kiteretsu Daikyakka are superficially easy, but require an absolutely absurd amount of precision. It also doesn't help that they want you to walk on ceilings that aren't fully visible on my TV. If you do manage to get to the boss and beat it, then after you pay your debts to the underworld, you'll get a password. And if you want to continue, then you have to re-enter the entire password. In Japan, Kiteretsu Daikyakka for the Famicom is well known as an awful game. There are a lot of clever things in the game, but there's also a lot of awful things. Walking on the ceiling is cool, but they don't really use it very well in the levels I played. I like collecting the inventions, and apparently there are 2 different endings depending on whether or not you've collected all of the inventions, but they're used so sparingly. 1 shot and then it's gone forever. There's some wild visual design in the game, but it's also often hard to look at. And then there are the problems like those companions. You have to be pretty loose with your level design if you're going to have the player control multiple characters at once. And in Kiteretsu Daikyakka, they want absolute precision at all times. You're going to take a lot of unavoidable damage, and then you're just going to wind up in debt and having trouble later on. They were trying to make Mario again. In fact, the fish enemies are called Little Marino, but the controls aren't as tight as Mario's. Kiteretsu Daikyakka is not a poorly made game. It's just that they did a decent job making some really bad ideas.